Hello everyone, welcome to Tridion Docs 15.3 Bootcamp session. This session is dedicated to publication editor, and my name is Gizem Karabulut. I am one of the product owner in Tridion Docs team. Let me quickly walk you through the agenda. I will kick off the session explaining why we worked on publication editor and the goal of this new feature. Then I will start presenting the details of the functions. I will cover editor, baseline, and version management. After that, I will present reuse section, which has resource, variable, and conref management. And at last, I will explain you the conditions. And after each section, I will do demos, but also in the end, I will do an end-to-end demo to give you the full picture of the publication editor. Starting with why we worked on the publication editor. 3D Docs is a powerful tool, and it has a powerful solution with many tools. So for an author, technical author, there are tools they need to switch between, like they need to use Publication Manager to manage the publication context. Organized Space has publication reports and translation capability they used for. Draft Space is where they are writing the content, and Review Space where they see the comments from the reviewer. And when there's an advanced technical case, they also need to open XML editor time to time. And all this switching between the tools happens just to compose a single publication. Also, some of the tools are client tools, and some of them are the web tools. And the flagship of the client tool is the Publication Manager. It is a desktop-only tool, and it works only on Windows. And it's a problem for our customers who uses Mac, and also it doesn't work on the Linux or in a browser. And that makes their process even more cumbersome time to time. And from the customer's perspective, especially for the onboardings, there are a lot of tools to learn, and each tool has its own UI, different UX, there's a different setup, and overall this increases the operational overhead for the authoring teams. To overcome this challenge, we decided to connect the editing functions from the draft space editor and the core management functions from the publication manager. And we would like to bring this together all in one place, seamlessly connected. Since it will be on the web, it will be also the Mac friendly, and there won't be any operating system limitation. And with this principle, we started shaping the publication editor. Our motto is unified authoring experience in one web tool. So in publication editor, authors can edit their content. They can manage baseline of the publication. They can handle component versions, and also they can manage variable, conref, and resources. They can also author library topics in that. And at last, they can apply condition context, and all happens in one tool within a single connected interface. And it is positioned as an optional paid feature, and it will be available to our all customers. So our existing customers that uses draft space, they can migrate from draft space to publication editor. However, they cannot have both of them at the same time. We put this role. It's also because the publication editor already has draft space editor, and it has more features on the top of it. And from the technical perspective, Fish Enable Composer field is introduced, and it's now added to the metadata configuration out of the box. And it is displayed as publication editor paid option. under the system default settings page. And by default, it is disabled. And different from the draft space, publication editor already has document history feature in it. So there is no need to add another configuration for that. That feature is automatically enabled with publication editor. We can start have a closer look at the UX and the capabilities of it. I would like to start with the navigation. So publication editor option is added under the open in action button. So it's another option next to the review space and publication manager. And from the structured content, from the search result or from the publication hub, simply where there's a publication is listed, a publication editor can be opened. And when user clicks that, since it's a single page application, the user will go to the publication editor mode for the selected publication version and language. And here we have 4 tabs. It opens with the editor tab. The editor tab is where we have the draft space editor with its full functions. The other tabs are the baseline for version management, reuse, and the conditions. So let's start with the editor. As I said, we use Fondo editor with its full functions. So it's simply same as the draft space. And the masthead is reorganized. We simplify it, make it more usable. Duplications are removed. We introduced search option to the toolbar. And on the top of that, since in the publication editor, users probably will switch from one tab to another frequently, we introduced keeping the state. So editor state is preserved via the browser's memory, so that even though user switches between the tab, we don't reload the editor again and again. As an extra, we have the version side panel. This side panel displays the available versions for the selected focused component, including the images. So it means that if the component cannot be loaded to the editor, we are not able to display the versions for them. It displays the details of status, changes, alter, and modify tone information. And also we display which version is selected in the baseline. This list is not configurable, so it's hard-coded. And while loading this list, we are taking into consideration the publication's working language. And if the version doesn't exist in the publication working language, we display warning icons here. And for the images, we take into consideration the system's default resolutions. Also for the components that has many versions, we introduce free text input filter to help users to find the version they are looking for. Also from the versions management happens via the manage version model. First, I would like to show you how to reach there. So under the versions sidebar, we have the manage versions button, and this is available under the editor, also in the baseline. So for the selected component, again with the same way, the version management can happen. Also, it exists under the reuse, so that the user can manage versions of the resources from there. So when they click the manage versions button, the model opens. So that model lists the versions and enable user to preview the content and compare the content. Also, we have the action buttons that I will explain in a minute. So first of all, the list of the versions, it's customizable, and About the preview and the comparison part works against the version that is set in the baseline. And I said that for the cases where we have the partial objects, for example, the selected version might not have the publication's working language, then we display warning indication to warn user about that. Or the version that is selected to the baseline later can be deleted from the repository. So we display that cases in the model, also in the sidebar. In terms of the actions, I think the main action is here to preview and compare, and then selecting this version in the baseline. So this is a place where user can change the version that's in the baseline for the publication, and they can do it via this with this button. But next to that, if none of the versions are usable for them, they can create a new version with this model, or they can create a new branch or a new version to the existing branch still in this model, and they can download and upload the content. Regarding the preview, if I go back here, so this model has a split in the middle, and then it limits the area for the preview. To overcome this limitation, we introduce expand option, so the model can be expanded to the full page. Also, the split bar can be draggable, so user can drag it up and then see the preview in a larger area. And also, this model functions for the images and the inline images, so user can also manage the versions of the images via the model. So, as I said, I would like to do short demos between each section. I think it's better to see things right after the presentation. So, first of all, publication editor is added under the default settings as a paid option, so it should be enabled. And then it will start appearing under the open in action button. So I selected my publication version, and when I click publication editor button, so my application moves to the editor section. So it opens with the editor option, and then in the editor, this is our draft space editor, so I would like to spend time on re-explaining the features. Here, therefore, I will jump to the version side panel. This is a new thing we introduce. So as I said, like the draft space editor, we display information for the selected component in the document view. So we display the available versions here. So when there are like the partial objects, like the first version doesn't have the required language, same for the third version. We also display it in the tool under the tooltip. And we also display which version is set in the baseline. And let's see, yes, this one has quite a lot of version. If I move into the manage version model, then again, I see the versions listed here. And I want to use it like the full page mode. And let's say I want to see the difference between the version 11 and the version 14, which is in the baseline. So here we display the preview, so the user can see that, yeah, that from the 11th version, this data is deleted and there are new additions. So by comparing that, they can change the version in the baseline, or they can create a new version via the Add New button. So they can define here the changes, or let's say legal notes or release 15.3, and the new version is created, and I can set this new version to the baseline. And when I close to this model, here you see the 15th version is created and it is selected into the baseline. Okay. And I also said that it also works for the images. Here, let me show you a topic with the images. See, again on the sidebar, we display the available versions of it, and the version management and preview can happen for images and the inline images too. Yeah. And it can happen also under user can also use the baseline. So from the baseline, they can check the components and change the versions here. And also under the reuse, while they are working with the resources, they can also manage the versions of the resources via the version side panel. Okay. So let's go back to the presentation and continue with the baseline. Okay, starting with the metadata we are keeping in the system for the baseline is the title and the shared by information when the baseline is created and modified and whether it's active or not. So if the baseline is not gonna be used anymore, so the baseline can be updated as not active, so it won't appear under the baseline dropdown list for the other while selecting a baseline for the other publications. And if it's a shared baseline, the other publications are listed under the shared by field. If you look at the list view, so when publication opens, first of all, there's an implicit autocomplete happening in the background. And here we list the title of the component, versions, their status, whether they are used in that publication or not, and if there's a newer version is available. So I think this is an important information to let user know there are newer informations and the other details related to the components. So this list is customizable via the metadata configuration XML. And the important difference from the publication manager is that if it's a shared baseline, this list also includes the resources and route maps that are linked to the other publications. It is handy to see these components too, because when they would like to release a publication, or if they would like to freeze this baseline, the components that are used by the other publications needs to be in the correct status too, so they can see everything in one page with this view. Also, it lists object reference in the content and also objects or versions that are removed from the repository but still part of the baseline are also listed. And we display with a warning icon when there are things needs to be fixed or requires writer's attention. For example, the objects that are referenced in the baseline but they are missing in the repository. In that case, we add a warning icon, or objects that are referenced in the baseline but their reference version is missing in the repository. Again, we display a warning icon for this case in the baseline. Cleanup, yeah, let's move to the actions. So here there's a hierarchy, if you notice that. So this the freeze and the cleanup actions are on the top. It's because when user click the cleanup, it works on the full list. On the contrary, that the action buttons that are working on the selected items from the list. So the cleanup is for removing the items that are not used in the baseline. So it respects the used information here. And the next section that works for the full baseline is the freezing. Freezing a baseline ensures users to always know which version for each object was used in the publication. So it appears only if the current user has write access to the publication and if the baseline is not already frozen. And the freeze action checks succeeds when all reference objects are in release state. And for shared baseline, all reference items must exist and be a release state across every publication before the freeze can succeed. And also, if a publication is released, the baseline is automatically get frozen. So we show a confirmation dialog to user. Do you want to freeze the baseline to lock the current set of the object version? And when it succeeds, we are refreshing the pages and then to add the frozen baseline indication. This indication is visible under the version side panel in the manage versions model, also in the baseline page. But since the freeze checks all the components in the baseline, there is also a need to show the errors. And to do that, we took the approach of showing a batch status information dialog. So this dialog displays each component with the explanation of the error. For example, it's not released. And the headings are clickable. When user clicks that, we are opening the baseline page with this component is in focused so that the user can see more information about the component or they can take the required action from there. And the good thing about this dialog, until user close it via the cross button, from the different pages, they can continue to click on view details to see this list. If they want to close it, they can copy the list and paste another note application, or they can just run the freeze. They can click the freeze button again and they will get the report again. And in the baseline also, as I said, we have the version sidebar and the manage versions model. So they can manage each component's version from here. And when a version of an object is changed, the views are updated to reflect it. Since fetching a large baseline is a heavy operation, when a version changes, we worked only on the affected portion of the table, and that part is updated to avoiding a full refetch from the database. And also when a version is changed, autocomplete is triggered to add all possible new objects to the baseline. So actually this part, updating the baseline part, happens wherever the version is changed. Doesn't matter it happens from the baseline or the editor or the resources. Let's look at the baseline cases now. So this is a place where we display the baseline properties. So user can update the title. These informations are disabled, or they can change the state of the baseline from here. In the action bar, we have the copy ID. They can copy the selected items ID and they can use it in the structured content in organized space. Or from baseline, they can move to the editor. So for the selected item, when I click edit, there is a version information is temporary unavailable error. But we go to the baseline and it finds, we go to the editor and we put focus to selected item. So let's, for example, okay, let's, yeah. So user can automatically go to the editor for the selected topic and continue to work on here. And on the sidebar, we display the versions of it, and we display the warnings related to the versions. And I also would like to explain you these two filters. So in the baseline tab, this list can be really, really long. So what users can do, they can pick which components are used, and they can also have a look at which components have a higher version. So they can check this once, and if needed, if needed, they can change the version in the baseline. And yeah, that's clear. I set that to the cleanup. So there are also not used item in the list. So the cleanup button works on that. And when it cleans up, there is only used components remains here. And for the freeze, so there are many things in the draft state. So I will get an error. So when I click the view details, then okay, it's 48 items has some problems. So user can check the details here and they can move from, let's say here, not. Okay, when they click the header, they can see the item in the baseline also. And as I said, this dialog stays here. They can come back here and continue to work on the next item. But okay, I would like to show you how we display a frozen baseline. So if I open it in publication editor, so under the versions panel, we have a banner for frozen baseline. Also, the banner appears in the manage versions model because the selected version cannot be changed. And we display it also in the baseline view as a banner. Okay. So the third section is the reuse part. So reuse tab is the place where we have three subsections. First one is the resources. Under the resources, we display the document objects that have been manually added as publication resources, such as library topics or binary objects that needs to be included into the published output. So the columns are configurable and similar to the other views, we also have like the versions for the selected resources, and also we have the where used functionality here. So users can add new resources to the publication. To do that, from here, they need to click Add Resources button. That opens the item selector, and they can here add multiple resources at once. And after clicking Add, these items will be added to baseline automatically. Or they can remove resources from this list. Then the connection between the library topic and the publication will be broken. And yeah, this is the version side panel. The second section is the variable. So this is the list of all the variables that are defined under the resources that are connected to the publication. Therefore, in this list view, the used column is an important information. So by filtering this used one, that's the users can see only the variables that are used in the publication. Also via the status filtering, they can see if there are any broken variables. So about the list, again, this is the list shows variables that is used in the publications. Actually, the variables, this is a superset because this can come from the resources field, or the variable also might be added via the XML editor. These are also listed in this list. So we display the variable ID and the variable value if it's a text, and whether it's used in the publication, and if there is a message. And also we display the resources where this variable comes from. Here the columns are not configurable, it's a hard-coded list. And deep linking is available for the selected variable. No, there is no multi-selection. And the users can select a variable, and by clicking Edit Resource button, they can move to the editor to edit the resource file. And there can be some cases requires author to fix. For example, the variable value can be missed, or there can be duplication in the var ID, or the variables that are in the that can be in the content, but it can be missing in the publication resource. So user can see that kind of warnings from this list. And the last one is the conrefs. These conrefs are all used in the publication. And in the list, we also display the resource information. So the conref can either point to a library topic, this is the preferred way, or to any other topic. These are all listed here. And clicking the resources link opens the item in the baseline. This list supports range conref. Also, again, user can jump from this view to the single component editor to edit the conref. Under the reuse section, we included the var used. The var used will also included to the other tabs, but in the first version, we introduced it to the reuse and the conditions only. So the goal of this side panel is to inform user about where this component is used, so they can be aware of the effect of the content changes. So for the resources, the entire repository option is enabled, and for variables and conrefs, only in this publication option is enabled. So for example, here, user can see this conref is used by which topics of this Tridion Docs Genius publication. And there can be actions taken from the various side panel. There is a fuzzy search. It searches across all the visible metadata. They can copy the ID of the listed item. And then the other actions, these are depends on the object type. So the preview with compare, open in review space are the actions we added here. Also by clicking the link to the header link, users can navigate from this view to the baseline for this object. I would like to continue with single component editor. It is for editing the resources. And First of all, I would like to explain you the new client names. Publication editor is added as a new client name to the system and only for use in the behavior config XML next to the publication editor client name. We also added multi-component editor. This is the draft space editor, the one author uses for content creation for the publication, and single component editor. This is the second editor and it will be used for resource editing. So these clients names are passed to the Open API, and the idea is that by using the different combinations of it, so users can define different sidebars in the editors and they can customize the views for multi-component editor and single component editor. And in the single component editor, first of all, it respects the publication context. And it can be open from different places. So for a resource, we have the edit option. Under the variables and the conref pages, also conref pages user can click edit resource button to move into that editor. Or from the baseline, if the selected object is a library topic, then clicking edit button directs user to the respective editor. And another option is while writing the document from the multi-component editor. For example, there's a variable with the right click, user can open this pop-up, and by clicking edit resource, they can move to the single component editor and work on this defined variable there. Yeah, so this button can be hidden if the publication is read-only folder, or if the baseline is frozen, or maybe the component is locked by another user, so the uploading is not allowed at that moment, or the resources has a missing value, so it means that no object is found that has a definition for the variable or conref target. Also, it's different than the multi-component editor. The first thing you will notice is that there is no outline option because it's just a single component. Other than that, there is a side panels and the version management is available. Also, we limited here under the advanced, we disabled the reuse options because we don't want user to create circular referencing. So the insert reuse content, insert variable reference, and editing variable reference and reuse content are disabled. Also, editing component and inserting component and inserting related crosslink is also disabled in single component editor. I think, yeah, this is explained. So this is like the set of rules we are applying for the editor routing by item type. So if the selected item is an XML and it's a resource, and we open single component editor. If it's a resource but it's not an XML, it's a non-XML, then we just open the resource list so user can open preview to see the content. If it's an image that is used in a resource, we open single component editor. If it's used in maps hierarchy, if it's in the outline, we open multi-component editor. If the selected item is an image that is used in maps hierarchy, again, we open multi-component editor and the image is focused. And if it's only a reference from a conref, again, we open multi-component editor and conref is highlighted if it's possible. And if the selected item is none of the above, the edit button is hidden. Okay, it was a long section. So let's have a look at it together. I can now close this dialog. So under the reuse, the first section is the resources. Here, these are the resources, library topics that are linked to my publication. I can see the versions of it, and I can see where these are used. Currently, it's only used one publications, but both of the versions use these resources. So I can add a new resource here. Item selector opens, and let's see in the docs, genius topics, library topics. Let's say I can add a new one. So it's added. So user can continue and select another one for the multiple selections. Or they can just close the model because it's already added. It's here. And after adding that one, I can click edit button, and that opens the single component editor. As I said, there is no outline, and under the advanced section, the reuse options are disabled, or I cannot add a new component for that one, but I can do the content writing and I can do the version management for that. If I click go back button, I go back to my resources. I can also use preview to see the preview of my resource files. And if it's not needed, I can remove it from my list. In the variables list, so as you can see, this is a list of the variables, whether it's used or not used. So I can list only the used one, and then I can see, for example, these two variables, they don't have assignments. And from the values section, I can see, okay, which topics use that one. So for example, configuring images. If I go back to the editor and I can see this is the vendor name variable. So this needs to be fixed from the reuse section. So how user can fix it? Because it's the variable ID is not defined. So I can go back to the resources. The vendor name should be probably a product variable. I can open the editor and here the variable ID is missing. As an example, I can open the attribute panel and I can define it, and when I go back to my variable list view, so see that the problem is fixed. Now it has the result status, but still I have one more unresolved in my list to work on. And in the conref list, these are all used in my publication. Again, here we have the values, so I can see which topic is used at conref. I can copy the ID of this topic, or I can preview this topic from here. Or if I need to work on this conref, or if I need to actually, what is this conref? I can click edit resources, And then we open the library topic and we highlight the conref value here. So this is actually Tridion docs 15.1 is referenced in my content. Okay. Yeah. Or I can click, to link in the resources that redirects my page to the baseline, and I can get more information about this component from here too. Yeah. And the conditions. Let's start with setting condition context. So this is the default view. When a publication is created, it has no condition context. And the default option, selected default option is include all content regardless of condition usage. So in the content, the conditions can be used, but till a context is set, by default, all the conditions are included to the published output. From this view, user can change the default to the exclude all, or they can add a context to the publication by clicking the modify context button. So this is the view when there is a publication condition context. So it means that this publication is for Genius releases or the release tool. So it is set as a context. And from that view, user can update it or delete it. If it's deleted and there is no condition, then the view goes back to the default state, include all option. This is how to set the context via the modify context model. In this model, we list the conditions with their name and value. We have the filtering options. Also, we display which condition is used in the publication. That's an important information. In terms of front-end behavior, contrary to the other views, the filtering or sorting are kept. Here, if the user selects another value. And important reminder for the multi-select, user needs to click the checkboxes and not the rows, because if they click the row, then it deselects the previous condition. So the checkboxes needs to be used for the multi-select. And from the context, user can remove condition values one by one, but if they select all, then we display a confirmation dialog. So then it will clear the context, and then the output will include all content regardless of the conditions. So user needs to be informed about the consequence of deleting the condition context. We have a refresh mechanism here, and it is like the rest of the publication editor. We try refreshing affected views without refreshing the whole editor. So when condition context is modified, we refresh multi-component editor and single component editor, so that what's included or excluded should be displayed with the correct indication. So it should be synchronized. And when a condition is applied in the editors, then the condition tab is also refreshed because we display whether the condition is used or not in the dialog. And also, if a condition is modified elsewhere from another user, we are displaying it with a toast message. This model also supports the range conditions. So range conditions works different than the regular conditions. So it's first of all, range conditions are not stored in the condition management system file. These are stored only in the publication's condition content. And these are shown in 3 cases: when the values are added to the condition context, when the values are manually added to the publication's content, and their values are added to the range condition, but if it's not selected, then in that case, these are visible until the publication is closed. So we add a plus icon next to the conditions that opens another window so that the user can manually type the range condition value to that dialog. And in that dialog, the values are validated depending on the range type, and the values are trimmed of leading and trailing spaces. So duplicates are removed, and the values for date type range conditions can be selected via the date picker. So this is how it works in the modified condition context model. So the light years is a range condition. There is a plus icon button. When user click it, we open add values for condition. So here it's a number, here it's a date, so that's why we open date picker. And there are validations. For example, this is a version. It expects version. Therefore, we display a validation error when user enters a text. We worked on visualizing conditions across the view. So this is also an addition to the draft space outline. Now, if a topic reference is included to the map via a condition, we use a green badge to indicate that this topic has a condition. And also in the topic sheet header, we display it with green highlight and the eye icon. Or if it's excluded, then it's a red badge and the structure remains. And in the document view, now we highlight that topic with red and also with a closed eye icon. In the document view, we didn't change much. We just changed the icon to the eye icons to make it consistent with the outline and the topic sheet header view. For the conditions also, we introduce a various option. So to inform users about the effect of the content change in the publication and the repository wide. So it's added there, so user can see where this condition is used only for the publications, so they can see which topics have this conditions, and the available actions are similar to the were used in the reuse. Yeah. So as I said, the default is include all, and there is no condition context yet. If I go to the editor, okay, I'll close that one. For example, there is condition here, and yeah, this is there. These are all included, and I think there are conditions in the content. These are also all included. So user can change this default to the exclude all. Then the editor is refreshed, so these are not included anymore. Also, these two topics are excluded. When user would like to set a context, so they need to open the model. So this model has a free item search. For example, I can search like the Genius related conditions here, or this is also very handy, which conditions are used in the publication. So from here, let's say this is for the product release 2, and this is for only the cloud release. I can do the multiple selection, and then when I save it, now this is the conditions that are applied to my documentation. And similarly, I selected this one, and from the where used, I see which documents have these conditions from the condition context. And we are supporting the range conditions, so it's possible to do it like that. So let's say it is going to be, so I can add this value and it is selected. I can save it, or I can delete the defined conditions from the list. But if I delete everything, then I need to confirm the consequence of it, then everything will be included because it goes back to the default state, which is include all. Yeah. And the sidebar extensions. So the sidebar extensions can be configured for single component editor and multi-component editor separately via the client names, as I explained. And also, I think throughout the demo, you already noticed that when I change the tabs, when I jump from one tab to another, the synchronization is quite fast because we introduce a refresh mechanism with a change manager. So our goal is to optimize the screen performance. So simply, it handles the real-time synchronization of the changes between the different components, and it keeps cache data up to date by detecting and managing invalidations. And it optimizes the performance, especially for the heavy publication data using caching. So how it works, it monitors publication changes, and then it sends the events based on the change type. And it also listens events automatically, so the refresh affected data, update change records, or it triggers required action. As I said, in the end, I also would like to show you everything one more time all together. Okay, so from the structured content, so the authors can move to the publication editor, and it opens with the editor tab. In the editor tab, we introduce the version side panel, so it works based on the selections here. So users can change the version that is set in the baseline by comparing the differences, and they can see the preview of the version and they can set it into the baseline. And it automatically reflects to here. Also, it reflects to the baseline tab. If I go to the baseline tab, here I can see, for example, is there any newer version? It can be. And for example, this has a newer version. If I go to manage versions model, okay, it is a visual is improved. I can see that one. I can put it to the baseline, and then sorry, and I can change the version of it, and it disappeared here because it is filtered by the but it was that one. So I can click edit. I can see already in the editor that the image is updated with the second version. Also, user can use this here for the troubleshooting. For example, this version doesn't have the publications working language, so they can jump to the structured content to create the language for this version. From the reuse section, they can manage the resources via the single topic, single component editor. They can work on the library topic content. They can write the content. Also, they can manage the versions of the library topics. So the variables and the conrefs lists are very handy. They can see what is used, also where it's used in the publication. And they can fix the mistake again by jumping to the editor from the list. Same is true for the conrefs too. And lastly, before the publishing, they can set context to the publication, and they can also see from this view which conditions are applied in the content, and this is also very helpful for them. And as I said, they can set the condition context to the publication and save it for the publication. Then the content automatically respects to set condition also under the editor mode. Yeah, with that, I'm concluding my session. I would like to thank you everyone for taking time to join Publication Editor Bootcamp session. And we are excited about releasing this feature, and we are looking forward to your feedback.